Good morning and welcome to Paul T's World. It's beautiful May. I love May. Everyone loves May, and that is because so much is in flower. The trees are in flower, the shrubs are in flower, and as you can hear, the robins singing. What could be better than that? Because it's May, we have to have a look at the azaleas. It's spring, it's getting on to late spring, and therefore the deciduous azaleas are all coming out, and they smell absolutely beautifully. Look at that. And I'm rather lucky in that oh, there's a blackbird. There she is. I'm rather lucky in that I've got 3 here. I say lucky, I planted them. And then the 3rd down here. Yes, I'm really pleased that I dug this bed. The reason I dug it originally was because the border was completely straight. I wanted to break up the straightness of this border, and so I made this kind of half moon shape. And I put azaleas in, and am I glad I did, because it really shows off April, May, and indeed it'll go a little bit into June. And here we have this area that I've dug right over. I'll show it in more detail in another video, but in fact, we've actually got another deciduous azalea here. This one's later, so that'll be out in another week or 2. So I've planted some general, shall we say, shrubs here. We've got the Kim lilac. In fact, let's have a closer look at that because it's starting into flower. Beautiful scent on the lilac. We've got 4 lilacs in the garden. This is the only Kim variety. There are the 2 blackbirds. Now, of course, they're in this border because I dug it over yesterday, and so they're looking for worms in the border. I've watered it because, once again, it's sunshine wall to wall in Britain now. No rain, just sunshine. So I have to be out and water this garden to keep it going. Now that blackbird, male blackbird's got a tasty morsel, and the female wants it. There she is. I've got a wide angle lens here, so you can't see that well, but I'm only 6 feet from her. And there she is. Now, where was I? Oh yes, we were having a look at these shrubs. Let's just turn round and look at the shrubs. So we had the lilac there, the Kim lilac. Next to it, the deutzia, fabulous deutzia. It'll be flowering in June, as will the Philadelphus here. Peonies are coming along, looking good and healthy actually. There they are, I've got a little row of them. Blackbirds jumping along the top of the hedge now. Next to the Philadelphus, we've got the mophead hydrangea that I cut right back. And indeed, it's actually layered itself down here. And these are the new plants that I've put in. A Philadelphus, that's a cutting I did a couple of years ago. A flowering currant that I found around the garden, self-seeded. And behind we've got the Weigela. And this is a cutting that I did from one of the Weigelas in the front garden. Yesterday, I just planted up some geraniums and creeping phlox that I pinched from my sister's garden. So we'll see how they go. Next to that, we've got another flowering currant and the forsythia. Now, I'm quite pleased because at long last, I've pruned back this forsythia. It was wild. Not wild about being pruned, just looked wild. And the next one along, it's also a cutting, and it's a cutting from that deutzia we looked at a few minutes ago. And the Kerria japonica that I have right behind the Pittosporum sent up these suckers. So I've dug up a couple of those and we'll see how those flower. Now in the roadbed, we know it's the roadbed because the cars keep driving by. Here we have another lilac, slightly creamier, buttery lilac. Of course, down on this pathway bed, we've got plenty of azaleas in flower. The hostas are coming along. Oak leaf hydrangeas are all doing really well. Lovely big oak leaves. Here's another azalea. This one was layered itself from another azalea I had up on the upper terrace. And of course the weigelas, they start in early May. This is the variegated one, and I do notice that at the top there, the most vigorous shoots, they've reverted, so I'm going to take those off because I want to keep this nice and variegated. I cut this back quite a way actually in early spring off the path. This upper terrace has always got plenty of interest. Here are the osteospermum. And I can just hear the buzzing of some bees on the cotoneaster here. Bees do love this cotoneaster, even though the flowers are so small. Little honeybee down there. The calendula that's self-sow. I must encourage more of those, really. And here we've got the tamarisk. Doesn't flower for very long, but doesn't it look gorgeous against a blue sky? Choicer in flower now. And the montanas are at their best. But before we get to the montana, we've got yet another plant in flower. And this is the Viburnum plicatum. I know the name now. Starting to get its beautiful shape. Oh, let's go round it again. What a shape that is. And doesn't it look nice in the dappled sunshine? Would you believe this clematis was a cutting I did a number of years ago? So I planted it at the base of this viburnum. The viburnum has really grown. Once this clematis has finished flowering, I'm going to immediately, well I say immediately, I never do anything immediately. I'm going to immediately cut the viburnum right back and the clematis will come back with it and everything will hopefully be fine. Oh, isn't it fabulous when plants grow right through other large shrubs? And it's even started to grow through the next shrub. which again I like. This has got lovely leaves, beautiful greens, just like everything else at this time of the year. But as I've mentioned before, it does send up lots of suckers, this plant, and I'm not so keen on that. I must dig those up so I don't get a big thicket there. I've got some hostas along this rather dark area here. And a lilac reaching up into the sunshine, into the blue sky. Another cutting, clematis cutting, that is growing through this flowering currant and this dead rowan. The rowan died, I don't know why, and so I thought I would put a honeysuckle and a clematis up it. And here is the honeysuckle, and that will flower later. In fact, here are the flower heads starting. So we find ourselves in the back garden. The blackbird is singing from the silver birch up there. Beautiful. Let's go back under the pergola and see what's happening here. Now here is the wild area. I say it's wild because it's full of snails. This euonymus houses a lot of snails, and as we saw last year, they come out at night and enjoy these hostas. I've planted a few hostas. Keep them happy. And a brunnera, which is doing well there in its woodland position. The yew tree, which I cut back at least by 6 feet every few years, is growing right up again. And as we can see behind, here's the hawthorn. Called the May tree, because all the hedgerows in Britain are covered in hawthorn blossom. Look at that. And those will turn into lovely red berries in the autumn, loved by our wildlife. Oh, and here's a bit of blossom a lot closer. Let's see if I can just get up there so we can see the blossom. There we are, hawthorn blossom. And it is amongst this Japanese willow that I tend to leave to grow wild, but I'm going to cut it back this year, tidy it up. In the pond, we've got the bog bean in flower. Here's the bog bean. And hanging beautifully over the pond is the Weigela, ruby red. Here's the other Weigela. I did cut this back quite a lot late last year, far too late for it to flower properly, but it's still managing to put out some flowers. Oh, and I've got another Weigela here. A white Weigela, very vigorous this one. I don't know the name of it actually. And the second of the 3 oak leaf hydrangeas is sending up these lovely new leaves. Now this was a surprise this year. Look at all these Solomon seal. I can't say they've come from nowhere. Look at all the stems down there. But I only had 1 or 2, and they get hit pretty badly by the Solomon seal sawfly. But the sawfly only eats the leaves after the little bells have done their flowering, so they still get to shine. So I like these little woodland plant, Solomon seal, with an honesty just in front. And a Fatsia japonica, spider's web, sending out a whole load of new leaves. And this hosta I put in here has really grown. It's a bruiser this year, look at this. Of the alliums are out. It's going to be a nice little show here. I had these in a pot over winter, and then I just popped them here, and they've immediately taken and sent up their flower spikes. The laburnum always looks lovely, doesn't flower for very long. This one came as a sucker from my sister's garden a number of years ago. They self-seed quite prolifically, and so I've got some more down here that I'm going to leave. So here are 2 or 3. What's really nice is I noticed a few years ago that it had sent up, that it had self-sown over here. And so this one is completely self-sown, right in the right place, and I've left it. The bizarre thing is it flowers slightly differently. The racemes, as you can see, are much shorter, and they're later, they're not fully out yet. Strange that. The rowan hopefully will have a lot of berries this year, didn't last year. In flower, just slightly over now. Let's just make our way over to the lawn bed, see what it's doing. Quite a lot really, a lot of growth. Had to water it a lot because of course we've had virtually no rain for a month. Popped in just yesterday actually some creeping phlox. The phlomis that I split and was afraid wouldn't flower for a year or 2 is obviously going to flower this year, no problem. Another deciduous azalea. These 2, this one in the lawn bed and this one over here in the shed bed, are always later than the ones in the front garden. This one's a deep red. And the climbing hydrangea is in flower. That took years to flower, but now of course it flowers every single year like clockwork. The elderflower that doesn't do very well in this position, I don't know why, but I might move it. I cut it right back last year, and it seems to be doing better now, but still not as I think it should be. So we might get that moved. I split the guacamole into two, and it did really well straight away, and I put one side of the patio and one the other. I've got these pretty little ones dotted about the place. The big darker blue one, and this one here, I think I've got a name for this. Oh yes, this is Janet. Let's see how long I can keep the slugs away from these hostas. And then a matching pair at the front. This one and the other one, which is next to the lilies. As we have a look at the lovely fresh leaves of the acre, I'll see you next time in Paul T's World. Oh, give this video a like, and I'll see you. Bye.